Hey, this is Jesse with Create This. This machine that you're looking at in front of you is a Generation 2 Bosch mid-drive e-bike. It is a felt dual E, and I've had this since about 2015. I'm releasing this video in 2019, so I've had it for a number of years. I've changed tires, changed the chain, you know, various little maintenance issues, but for the most part, it hasn't given me any trouble. It's pretty well designed. It's a full suspension mountain bike. It's pretty heavy, but it is an e-bike. One of the things that has always bothered me about this bike, ever since I got it, was that it's impossible to use as a mountain bike without the electric assist. The granny gear, the very lowest gear, is not low enough in order to pedal up steep hills without the electric assist. So if your goal in getting an e-mountain bike is to get some exercise and then maybe only use the electric assist when you need to, or when you're tired, or to get somewhere quickly or something like that. If you want the option to use it and you don't want to have to use it, then this doesn't really work very well. So what I did is I bought a new mountain bike that has a much lower granny gear, and it's great, but then my son decided that he wanted to start using this e-bike when we would go out on trails. And he started complaining that it didn't have a very low rear gear too. So this is the gear system on this bike. There is a chain ring gear here. I believe it's a 15 tooth. And there's actually a gear reduction ratio inside the Bosch motor itself. So every turn of this pedal, I believe it takes 2.5 turns of the pedal to turn the chainring one complete revolution. So there's an internal gear reduction in there as well. The rear tooth is, I believe it's a 36 tooth count, and this is a 10 speed. So when I bought it in 2015, apparently 1x10 gear systems were becoming a thing. Like, it was maybe a little bit before they started really becoming a thing. So now, fast forward to 2019, 1x11 and 1x12 are pretty common. So I think what a lot of people are finding is that, you know, they want a larger ratio of gears on the rear since they don't have a front derailleur. So I had this thought to myself, rather than buy a new bike, why don't I try to convert this older e-bike to have a wider ratio of gears and a much lower granny gear on the rear. So I started researching components. These rims are Easton Vice XLT rims. It is obviously a 10-speed hub. The hub itself is an Easton X4 hub, and when I wrote the manufacturer, they said that you can't use this hub with 11 or 12 speeds. There's no hub body that they make to convert that, because sometimes wheel manufacturers will make other hubs that you can buy and interchange to do that. When I asked around on the e-bike forums, they said that the Shimano HG cassettes and chains should work on a 10-speed hub. They said that the 8, 9, 10, and 11, I believe, are all compatible with the same hub. I don't know if that's true or not, but we're gonna try it. So what I did is I bought that Shimano CS M8000 XT Dior cassette. I bought a Shimano chain. It's a 11-speed chain, HG 70111. I bought a Shimano Dior XT looks like this is the derailleur, RD M1000 M8000 SGS. Inside there at that. And I bought a Shimano Dior XT, or Diore, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. It looks like an SL M8000R shifter. Right there. With these components, I should be able to put an 11 to 46 tooth rear sprocket on. I've also bought a, let's see, the name of this company is Connex. This is a Connex 14 tooth chainring. And so this will be the replacement for the front. And I also bought some tools to help me replace that. But what I'm really curious about right now at this moment is whether or not that cassette will fit on that hub. So let's take it all apart and see if it does. Okay, so I actually had to watch a little video on how to do this because I haven't done it before. So I've already moved the chain to the lowest sprocket. It's actually off the sprocket. So we open up the clutch and we're going to loosen up the axle. I think this is a through axle, so I think I'm actually going to remove the through axle. There we go. There's my through axle. And then we're going to lift the derailleur downward and drop the wheel down, and it should come right out, they say. Yeah. Oh, there we go. All right. So there we go. Wheels out. So let's get this cassette off and see what happens. All right, here's my wheel on the workbench. I've got my Park Tool cassette removal tool. This goes, no, sorry, it's a Lockring removal tool. This goes down into the cassette like that. I've got my adjustable wrench, and I've got my chain whip. So, never done this before, but let's see how difficult it is. Oh, it came loose. All right. Wow. Okay. There's my lock ring. Cool. Unfortunately, I don't have two chain whips and my cassette appears to be stuck. It doesn't want to come out. Okay, we are back the same day. I ran across town to REI and I picked up a second chain whip because I just had to know if this would work. So let's set this up and see if we can get this to loosen up. I am really terrible at figuring out how these operate, but give me a minute. Hopefully I will figure it out. Problem is that we are stuck on the hub at this point. Oh, something happened. Oh. It's loose now. It's just not coming off. This is probably not a good idea, but I'm going to try to just pry it off. Oh, there we go. Came right off. All right. Cool. So there's one. Let's try the same thing on that one. Oops. I feel like you need a puller for these. Oh, that one's almost off. There we go. Finally. Jeez. They really get wedged. All that e-bike torque, I guess. Okay, so these are thoroughly stuck. Okay, it is the next day. I took this wheel to the local bicycle shop that sold me the bike, and they had the cassette off in about 5 minutes. They showed me how they did it. So this thing on the end here is called a hub spacer, and I thought that I would have to remove it somehow, but I couldn't figure out how to remove it. So they showed me a trick. What you need is something that's thin that you can use as leverage. And so he used a wrench, but none of my wrenches fit. So I thought maybe I could use 2 wrenches. And what you do is you need to pry upward on the Freehub because it's just on there with like a clip on the inside. And if you pry upward, you should be able to get it to come off. There we go. That was almost it. Oh, I think it just popped back on. Let's see if I can just pull it off now. Oh, there we go. And I dropped it. But at least it gets the point across. You might have to make a tool if you can't find one. They probably sell one. But that is the hub spacer after it has come off. And it apparently has like a little ring on the inside that just goes on the lip right there, and it's just like interference fit. After that has been done, the Freehub body just lifts right off. And again, on the inside, there's an O-ring in there. So you have to be careful when you're putting it back in that you don't pinch that O-ring and you get it seated nicely. It's also nice to grease this. These are the Freehub pawls right here. It's nice to grease this when you put it back in and clean it up. But anyway, to get the cassette off, what he did is, this was on here, and he just stuck a screwdriver between this lip here and the base of the cassette and worked it around, and eventually it came off. So as you can see, the remainder of the cassette was all one piece, and that was why I had a hard time getting it off. So we're just going to put this back on now, and we're going to work it kind of in a circle a little bit. We're going to rock it in a circle so that it goes back on without damaging the O-ring. A little bit more of a rocking in a circle motion. Oh. There we go, goes right in. And then he said once you get it on, it helps to move it backward just to make sure that the pawls are engaging. And then reinstallation of the Freehub is pretty much the reverse. You basically just push it on and it should go right on with a little click. And there you go, there's the Freehub reinstalled. So pretty simple. I'm glad I took it to the shop because I would have never figured that out myself. And now I've got that off. So let's see if the new cassette, the 11-speed cassette, fits on this 10-speed hub. This is our 11-speed HG cassette. It's a CSM 8000. Let's see if it fits. Removing it from the plastic wrapping, there is this little tab thing. I assume that just comes right off. And there's like this fake plastic Freehub there. And so I think what you do, maybe you can do it one at a time. Yeah, you can do it one at a time and just put it on. I'm probably going to clean this up with maybe some sandpaper, the Freehub body, before I reinstall this. Let's see if it goes on. Oh, it is actually going on easily. No, maybe I don't need to. Okay, great. That's awesome. Let's put the next one on. So these have like a thicker part right here that's the key. And you got to make sure you align that with the part on the Freehub that's the thicker part. Everything else is evenly spaced. In my case, that's the thicker part right there. So I'm just lining that up. Goes right on. Boom. There's a spacer there. Put that spacer on too. Spacer does not appear to be keyed. It's interesting. This one appears to be a little tighter. Still goes right down. Another spacer. There we go. And I believe this is the last gear. There we go. No, one more. And so for the final gear, I think it doesn't actually go on all the way because you can see that it has the indents and there's the key, but the indents don't go all the way through. So I'm just going to line up the key. There's the key right there. And then we'll put the lock ring on top. Don't want it cross-threaded. Is that even? Yeah, that looks like it's even. So now I think we can take our lock ring tool and just by hand tighten it up a little bit. Yeah, there we go. All right. Now we should be able to use tools to tighten it the rest of the way. Always want to put threads like that on by hand first, otherwise you can damage things by cross-threading them. I damaged a spark plug slot on my engine once that way. It was not a good day. All right, rotate that around. You can feel the teeth engaging. That's what you want. Go a little tighter than that. Wasn't very tight. Want those on there real good. That way the gears don't move. There's probably a torque for this. There's probably an actual torque spec. I don't know what it is though. I will look that up. But yeah, so to answer my question, can you put an 11-speed HG cassette on a 10-speed hub? The answer is yes. Okay, I read the dealer's manual, and when you're tightening this up, the torque specs say 20 to 30 Newton meters of torque. Translated to foot-pounds, because I'm in the US, that is 22 to 36 foot-pounds. I do have a torque wrench. I do have a torque wrench that I can use, but I don't have a socket that fits this tool, so I'm going to go buy a socket and I'll be back. Okay, so this took a little figuring out. This tool here, the lock ring removal tool, is a Park Tool FR 5.2G, and it doesn't say on the tool or on the Amazon page what the millimeter size is on the head for a socket, but the Park Tool SR12 chain whip does say on the Amazon page, and you've seen that before, the socket fits there. It says it's a 25.4 millimeter socket. So doing some conversion math, in standard, 25.4 millimeters is a 1-inch socket. So I'm going to go to AutoZone and buy a 1-inch socket, and hopefully that'll work with my torque wrench. Okay, I went to AutoZone, bought a 1-inch socket. It does indeed fit quite well. The torque specs on the user manual for this cassette say between 30 Newton meters and 50 Newton meters. Since my torque wrench is in foot-pounds, the conversion there is about between 22 foot-pounds and 36 foot-pounds. So we'll go somewhere in there. Figure maybe we'll just go to 30 foot-pounds. That seems like a pretty reasonable number. Put the torque wrench on and go about 30. There we go. All right. We are all torqued down. Okay, so the next part of this video will be installing the derailleur, I guess is how you pronounce it, derailleur, and the shifter and the chain. And also I think we'll show removing the chainring gear and replacing it with this 14-tooth sprocket. So, but I have to go on vacation. I have to go on a beach vacation for about a week, so I will continue this when I get back. Okay, I went on vacation and then I had family come in for the weekend, so it's been 2 weeks since the last part of the video. And so today, I think I'm going to procrastinate and do the derailleur last. So let's take off the chainring here. So this is an 8mm Allen key. Loosen that up. Looks like that might be anti-seize or something on there. I'm just going to leave it. Okay, my CCP 22 did not work. So I went to REI and I purchased a CWP 7. This will probably work because it is designed for ISIS drive cranks. So we'll take this apart and take a look. There it is out of the case, or out of the packaging rather. So it looks a little bit different than it did in the photos online. And the reason why is because apparently the ends come off. They're on there with like a little O-ring right there. And so they're interchangeable. You can take this one off very gently and switch them out. So I'm not entirely sure, but I think this is the configuration that we need for the ISIS drive. I think that's going to go in there like that. Careful not to cross-thread the threads. Having a hard time getting them to seat. Not sure why the threads are so junky on these things when they first come out. Take a bit of working. And again, I'm not quite sure what that socket is or what that nut size is right there. So I'm just using an adjustable wrench. Not the best choice, but it gets the job done. Okay, I think that's bottomed out. So now, I think it takes a 15mm here. And so we're just going to spin this and hopefully it will pop the crank right off. Oh, let me hand tighten it first. There we go. think that gap between the chain and the chain keeper is widening. It's getting easier to turn now. There we go. I think it's pretty much off at this point. There we go. There's our crank. And now to remove the tool. Let's see. There we go. Comes right off. All right. Okay, the next step is going to be to remove this lock ring so that we can put the new chainring on. In order to do that, we have this special tool that I ordered. This is a BDU 2XX, I believe. It fits right on there like that. It's a $50 tool, kind of expensive, but I don't think there's any other way to get that off really. So I think it takes a 1/2-inch drive, and I think the thing with these is that rather than lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, they are righty-loosey, lefty-tighty. It's a reverse thread, and normally to get these off you would leave the wheel on and you would use the brake, but I don't have the wheel on. So I'm going to attempt. I might need to put the wheel back on to do that. All right, or maybe use a chain brake. Let me try using a chain brake. All right, and so I'm going to push these towards each other and hope that it works. Hope for the best. There we go. Look at that. All right. Pleasantly surprised. Oh, and I tightened it by accident. Righty-loosey. There we go. All right, there's our lock ring. And there's our old chain ring. It looks like there's like a rubber seal right there. I want to take that off first, carefully. There we go. Save that. And there's our old chain ring with a bunch of gunk on the back. That's fun. And looking at these two, I'm not sure that they have an orientation. I think they can go on either way, but I'm going to install this one with the Connex lettering facing out this way. So put it on like so. Reinstall our handy dandy O-ring. Oh yeah, right. Lefty tighty. Man. It's a little gritty going back on. Okay. I'm sure there's a torque for that. Let me look it up. Actually, it says right on it. It says 20 to 25 Newton meters. So, all right, let me get a torque wrench. Okay, 25 Newton meters to foot-pounds is about 18 foot-pounds. And my torque wrench is in foot-pounds, so that's what I'm gonna use. Good luck to me on that. I think I'm just gonna call it good, honestly. This is too difficult. Yeah, all right. I think I'm just gonna call it good. If I remember, I will tighten that up more once I've replaced the chain and the wheel using the brake on the bike. Hopefully that'll allow me to get the leverage a little bit, I'll be able to get more leverage, and I'll be able to use my other hand because I'll just have somebody hold the brake on the handlebar for me. Okay, so I think we can move on to the derailleur now. And so I've got MLP 1.2 Park Tool, Quick Link removal tools, and click, chain comes off, easy as can be. Okay, the first thing we're gonna do, and I'm kind of winging it here because I've never actually replaced a rear derailleur, but the first thing we're gonna do is remove this cable. So this is a 5mm Allen key, and I don't remember, I can't do this upside down. Left, all right, so this way. Ultimately, I'm not real sure what I'm going to do with this cable just yet because it's routed through the frame of my bike, but for now we'll just remove it and worry about it later. And the entire derailleur itself appears to be attached with just a single 5mm Allen key here. I had no idea these things were on with a single bolt. Crazy. The question is whether or not I can actually get enough torque on it to remove it in such cramped quarters. Ooh. Ha! Wow. Did not hurt myself, but clearly I almost did. So be careful with that. I would recommend maybe a longer Allen key there, a bigger one. All right, so there's the derailleur off, and the cable just slides right out of the housing. Well, I say that, but it actually doesn't. It appears to have a crimp on the end, which keeps it from coming through the hole. Not sure what to do about that. Sorry, this is going to be handheld because I don't own a Steadicam, but it looks to me like this bolt here is a clamp for the cable, and then it's just on with the zip ties there and there until it goes into the frame on the bottom. And then it appears to come out of the frame here, wrap around, and go up to the handlebar shifter. Okay, my bad, I feel a little silly. So apparently the way you remove a derailleur is you make sure that the cable is still clamped, and then you simply grab it with some pliers, the crimp here, and pull. And it comes right off. And then you just unbolt that and the cable comes through. My bad. Now you know how. There we go. Derailleur removed. Okay, looking at the shifters, it looks like I may have made a mistake in ordering my parts. The old one is a Shimano Derailleur, or Derailleur, however you pronounce that, shifter. The model number says M780B, or SL M780B, and it doesn't have an indicator here, and it appears to bolt right there to this bolt so that the brake and the shifter are all kind of one mechanism. The replacement that I bought is a, get the wheel out of the way so you can see. The replacement that I bought is a Shimano Derailleur, or Derailleur, SL M8000R. And I think what I want is the SL M8000IR, or possibly the BIR, because I think I either want it to be I-Spec 2 or I-Spec B. I didn't realize that that was a thing, so I'm going to have to do some research and make sure that I get one that mounts with the correct mounting system. So I'm probably going to be sending this back and buying another one. Okay, it has been a little while. It's been a couple of weeks. I ordered this part and it took over a week to come in, and I was busy last weekend, so I didn't have a chance to do anything with it. But this is the SL M8000 BIR, 11 speed, I-Spec B. So let's figure out how to install this guy. I think the first step is probably going to be to remove the existing shifter. Okay, so to remove this, I believe we remove this Allen bolt first on the bottom. We're looking up at the underside of the handlebars right now. So this is a 3mm Allen key, and it's actually loose, which is weird because I didn't touch it. It's got some thread locker on it too. Shouldn't be loose. All right. Drop my bolts. These bolts are kind of strange. They're specialized. They're threaded, and then there's a flat spot, and then they're threaded again on the end. I'm not sure why that is. All right, now that we've got this removed from the handlebar, I think all we have to do is pull, and that pulls the cable here out of the sheath. And then looking at the other end of the cable, as we pull that out, you can see that the cable is sliding down into the sheath. So I'm just going to pull it all the way out. Hopefully it's not too kinked. I might want to cut that actually to remove that kink, but I'm going to try to just slide it out. We'll see what happens. Yeah, seems like it's going just fine. And there's our entire unit on the other end. Reinstallation should theoretically be the opposite of removal. So this is our new unit. And so comparing the new and the old, this is the old here and this is the new here. The old one is a 10-speed, the new one's an 11-speed. The old one is a Shimano Dior, or Diore, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, XT. It says Dynasys there. And on the back, it says SL M780B, Japan, right there. The new one is a Shimano Diore or Dior XT, and this one says Dynasys 2. And on the back it says SL M8000, even though this is a B unit. You can see that the mounting bolts are pretty much the same. The new shifter has these interesting little puck marks machined into it, which I think are pretty cool. Should give you a little bit more grip. Not that I've ever really had a problem with that. And also the other lever is a little bit machined as well. So that's cool. I like it. Anyway, let's try to get this in. So I'm just gonna take the cable here and unbundle it. Whee! It exploded. All right, so there's my straightened cable. I'm just gonna start feeding it into this tube here. Hopefully that'll work. Yeah, seems to be going nice and smooth. I was worried that I would have to change this sheath out because it goes through my frame and my bike, but that does not appear to be the case. I can just keep the existing sheath, which is really nice. Luckily it's not damaged. I'm just trying to not kink it and guide it in smoothly. Luckily I'm not meeting any resistance. Oh, a little bit of resistance when it came out on the other end, but it's out now. All right. So looking in the box that came with this shift lever, I can see it's got one of those weird bolts with the thread missing in the middle. It's also got what looks like a replacement crimp on the end. I'm going to have to figure out how to install that. And it's got a bunch of other things, and I don't know what they do. And the instructions don't actually have, from what I've seen, the ones in the box don't come with installation instructions. So I'm not sure if I should have like lubricated that cable when I put it in. You know, I apologize if I did something incorrectly, but it did go in smoothly, so I think it'll probably be fine. Okay, and let's go ahead and reinstall. I just got attacked by a bee. Let's go ahead and reinstall the shifter on the knob, or on the handlebar here. So one of the nice things about this is it's got this machined metal cylinder here. And so you can just kind of slide it in there and it fits. And then you can actually let go and tension just holds it on there. So I'm just going to take my Allen key and slide my bolt into the hole. This is my new bolt. Not going to reuse the old one, although I'm sure it doesn't matter. Tighten that up. Probably need to order a Park Tool 3mm to make this job a little bit easier. All right, but this works. Okay, so that's on now. And back on the other end, this is the end of the cable, and there's my ferrule or whatever you call it. So that's quite a bit longer than the original was, which that's probably pretty awesome that they give you a little bit extra cable in case you need it. But I'm probably gonna have to trim this. So okay, so I took a moment to look it up, and I think it's pronounced Dior. So I'm gonna go with Dior from now on. And just to add to the confusion, I recently read in a forum that if you were Japanese, you might pronounce it Shimano Deode. So that's probably a butchering, but letters mean different things in different languages. So, okay, so let's get this new derailleur on. So since the last video, I have gotten wise and I've bought some Park Tool Allen keys. These things are pretty awesome. They've got rounded ends, which make it a lot easier to install things. They're nice and long, and they've got handles, which is cool. So if installation is the reverse of install, then this goes on with one bolt. Sorry about the sirens in the background. Sounds like there's a fire. Tighten that up a bit. I think there's already some anti-seize on there. I probably should have replaced it, but I'm a bad mechanic. Sorry. Now I am pretty sure, kind of guessing, but I'm pretty sure this cable is threaded through here, like so. And that ferrule, or however you pronounce that. I'm terrible with pronunciations. Goes in there. And I'll move the camera for the rest. Okay, and having a look at the rear side of the derailleur, there's the pinch bolt and there's our cable, and so that's where we're going to attach it. But I think what we're going to do first is we're going to install the chain first. That's what the other video that I watched did. So let's go ahead and do that. All right, so this is pretty exciting. Putting the rear wheel back on. I feel like I'm making progress here. Pull that down and get it out of the way. And wait. Yeah, there we go. Get it up into the brakes. There we go. All right. And then just put my axle through from the other side. There we go. That wasn't seated properly. Weird. Okay. Threading just fine now, though. Lock down my axle. Okay, wheels on. Cool. So the next thing that we're going to do here is reinstall the crank so that, I think we could install the chain without installing the crank, but I'm going to install the crank anyway. All right. So crank arms should be opposing each other, I believe. Kind of hand thread that on, maybe give it a push. Never actually done this before, so I don't really know what I'm doing. And then put the bolt on. And I'm hoping by tightening the bolt, we will press fit the crank on. So let me grab a crank arm tool. Okay, so I've got this special, I bought a Park Tool Allen wrench for this, which is really nice because it's nice and long. You can use the short end, but really you want the leverage. And we're just going to do that. And as I tighten that, it's driving the crank onto its seat, press fitting it, interference fitting it. I bet there's a torque spec for this. I don't actually know what it's supposed to be. Figure I'll just do it until it doesn't really move anymore. Maybe that'll be good enough. Just don't want to break anything. We'll call that good for now, and maybe I'll tighten it up more later. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so now that our crank is on, we can reinstall the chain, I believe. And I say reinstall, but actually it's going to be a fresh chain because we got fresh, all new fresh gears. So hopefully I ordered the right part. This is a Shimano CH-HG70111, which is used with an 11-speed chain. It says Derailleur XT, so that should be the right one. I just hope I don't have to shorten it. My question is, are these directional? Ah, they are directional. Okay, so there's a little label on here that says that the lettering should be facing outward. So the lettering is here on this side. So we will have the lettering facing outward. It smells a little bit like turpentine. It's kind of a pleasant smell, I like it. All right, and we're gonna put it on the lowest chain ring on the back. Let me actually reposition the camera so you can see. Okay, so now that we've got both sprockets in view here, or both gears in view, let's see. All right, so I'm gonna feed this through. Ooh, all right. I'm just gonna feed this through until I've got most of it hanging down here so that I've got a little bit of room to maneuver. And on this side, we're gonna lower the derailleur down. And I super don't know what I'm doing. So instead of coming under the guide here, we want it to go over the guide. My bad. All right, like so. There we go. Oh, my master link came off. Again, arrow faces towards the rear. It's going to be under a little bit of tension. I don't know. Do you think I should remove a link?
I have no clue.
I have no clue either.
I'm even more clueless than you, though. I don't know what we're doing.
I think we'll try it. And then, see, these master links, they don't last forever. You can remove them like maybe 3 times before you got to replace them. But they're not super expensive, so I think what we're going to do is we're just going to try it. Can you ease up the tension on that derailleur for me for just a second? Just push it down a little bit. Thanks. Just having a hard time getting these matched. Okay. You can let go now. Thank you. Yeah, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to try it this way, and then if it doesn't work, we'll break the chain, and I'll probably buy a new master link, and or I'll use it a third time, you know, after we remove a link. Okay, so I watched some videos about cable replacement, and I didn't see any really great instructions. My cable is real close to going into my spokes there. You can kind of see that it's going to hit if it's right there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to loosen this up and move it just a little bit so that the cable is routing down a little bit further here before I cut the cable. But I'm going to cut the cable in a second. So there we go. I'm pulling the cable down and then I'm tightening it up. That should put it in a more favorable position for cutting. All right. And so now the cable is coming out down at the bottom and it's not going into the spokes. So I'm just gonna, like maybe right in there, I'm gonna cut it. Let me reposition the camera so you can see this part. Here's our cable sticking down. There's our Allen key nut that we tightened up for the cable. And so now we're just gonna cut this, and I like to leave a little bit of length on there just in case I need it later. So I'm going to cut it right about there. I'm not sure if you're supposed to use a special cable cutter for this, but I'm just going to use this same cutter from Harbor Freight that I use to cut zip ties. It's probably not a great choice, but it's what I've got. There we go. Third time's the try, huh? And let's get a cable end for that to keep it from fraying. Okay, now as far as crimping goes, I was looking to see if there was a special tool. It looks like there probably is, but I don't have it. So I'm gonna try, I've just got like various crimp tools laying around the shop. I'm gonna try one of these regular crimp tools and see if that works. Looks like it's a pretty big crimp, so that one might not do the job. Let me see if I've got something larger. Kind of ashamed of myself because I'm repurposing a tool that's not really intended to do this. Usually I like to use the right tool, but I'm just using like electrical pliers here. I'm going to try to put a crimp near the base. I'm not even sure I can get the leverage that I need here. Nope. Oh, but it worked. Ha! Look at that. It worked. And then I'm going to put another crimp on it. So 2 crimps. Can't believe that worked. Yeah, there we go. And it's on. All right, that wasn't so bad. There are 3 screws on a derailleur usually. There is a high, a low, and a B tension. So usually they're labeled. Sometimes they're not. This particular one is labeled, and so this is the low screw. There's a little L right there. This is the high screw. There's an H right there, and this is the B tension. So what I like to do is I like to set the high and the low limit first, and when I do that, I like to disconnect the cable, because what I've found is that particularly when you're setting the high tension screw, the high limit screw, the purpose of the high limit screw is so that the chain will not fall off of the cog up here into the spokes, right? The purpose of the low limit screw is so that the chain will not fall off of the lowest cog into the frame, right? So if you have the cable attached when you're trying to set the high tension or the high limit screw, sometimes it keeps the chain from moving, and you're not actually you're not measuring the high limit, you're measuring the cable tension. So I like to disconnect it when I'm doing this. That way it's not part of the equation. With that cable disconnected, we will manually push the derailleur up. So we're pushing it this way. Okay, so if I could just insert like a record scratching noise into the video right here. I had this wrong. This is the H adjustment and that is the L adjustment, but the L adjustment adjusts the largest gear. So that's your granny gear. That's actually your lowest gear. L, low, granny. H actually adjusts your smallest gear, so that's your highest gear. So when you actually adjust that correctly, you can get the derailleur into the highest gear. And Isaac is getting eaten by mosquitoes, so he's running like a mad person as he takes the trash out so that they don't eat him. It's kind of funny. Okay, so there's my L adjustment. It's actually going into the highest gear. And we'll bring it down now, and we'll see if the H adjustment is correct. It looks like the H adjustment. And I actually tweaked this just a tad, so I'm gonna I just don't want it to be rubbing while it's in that gear. It looks pretty good. Okay, so H is the highest gear. It's not gonna run off the derailleur into the frame. And then if we adjust this so that we push it, it should shift smoothly up into the highest gear. Now, one of the problems is you end up with not a lot of room between this top jockey wheel and the gear itself, and that, I believe, is the B tension. So you want a little bit of room there. So I'm just adjusting the B tension so that there's a tiny bit of room, and that just makes your shifts a little smoother. There we go. Bring it back down. And so it's not shifting into the bottom gear, so we need to adjust the L a little bit, or sorry, the H. I always confuse those until it goes into the bottom gear. There we go, right there. Okay, and then I just like to repeat this process a few times. So up to the top one and back down to the bottom one, gently up. So that I felt a little bit of noise right there going up into the top one, so I feel like it needs a little bit more B tension because I feel like there's still some interference between these cogs. So I'm going to give it more B tension, which separates the jockey wheel and the gear just a little bit more. That's a hard screw to turn. So we're going to come back down again. All right, we're in the highest gear, highest gear. Then we're going to go back up. Come down a gear or two and go up. Come down. Yeah, that seems pretty good. Okay. And we'll let it sit again. And now I think we can actually reattach our cable, and we can play with the B tension a little bit more to get the shifts nice and smooth. So again, to reattach the cable here, I'm going to grab it, kind of pinch it, to get this plate in the right configuration. Tighten it up. And again, I'm kind of pulling this cable downward so that it's out of the spokes. Okay. And now let's see, using the shifters on the handlebars, if it works. So bottom, up 1, up 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Well, I think I must have miscounted because this is an 11 speed. So that's 11, down 1, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's do it again, a little faster this time. Hey, look at that. It looks pretty good. I like that. I think we're Wait, are we done? I think we're done. All right, I forgot one step. We got to lubricate the chain. New chain, got to lubricate it. So I think the way we do that, done this a few times. I think the way we do that is we just kind of grab some of this Teflon stuff and we kind of put it in the chain here, and we just spin it around, let it roll. Put a little bit on the jockey wheels too. I don't actually know if that's necessary, but I'm going to do it anyway. A little bit on the motor, or on the chainring gear. Okay. Run it through a few cycles. And grab our rag and just wipe off the excess here. I'm just going to grab it on either side of the chain and just cycle it through, wiping off the excess. Trying not to catch my rag. Easier said than done. There we go. I think we're lubricated, we're good to go. So I'm gonna ride it around a little bit, and I'll probably play with the B tension and the cable tension just a little bit, but that's pretty much done. Successful installation here. So woohoo. You'll also notice that I re-engaged the clutch on the derailleur. So anyway, thanks for watching. The tools that I've used here, I will try to list all of them down below the video in the description, at least as many of them as I can that are available on Amazon. If you have any questions or comments about this build, first just keep in mind I am an amateur. I don't do this professionally. I'm not a professional bike mechanic. I'm just a guy with a garage. But if you do have any questions or comments, I love to learn new things, and I don't mind, answering questions if you've got them. Just ask them down below. As always, thanks for watching, and please subscribe.